Today, the International Criminal Tribunal convicted 6 Bosnian Croats, political and military leaders, Wednesday of persecuting, expelling, and murdering Muslims during Bosnia's war, and said leaders in neighboring Croatia helped hatch and execute their plan to carve out a Croat state in Bosnia. Journalist and author David Marash has made over 20 extended reporting trips to the region for ABC News Nightline, the Carnegie Foundation Report, and the Washington Monthly. And he joins us from his home in Tijeras, New Mexico. And excuse me, it's Marash. I'm sorry for mispronouncing your name, David. Thank you so much for being with us.
That's all right, Debbie. Thanks very much for inviting me.
It's a thrill to have you. Can you just sort of explain to us the significance of these verdicts?
Well, the verdicts that we've had are not the ones that were most widely anticipated, but they are very significant. The most significant defendant is Jadranko Perlic, who was a militia leader for the Croats in the area of western Bosnia and Herzegovina. And he was briefly named the president of Herceg Bosna, which was a Croat mini-state in western Bosnia. What's really important about this verdict is that Perlic and his 5 co-defendants were seen as acting in concert with the Croatian government, and prosecutors directly tied them to the late President Franjo Tudjman and the late defense minister Gojko Šušak. This is the first time that the Croatian state per se has been convicted, in a sense, of direct action in committing war crimes in Bosnia during that war in the mid-1990s. Now, this is very bad news for the 2 Serbian defendants whose verdict is awaited. Frankie Simatovic was the head of the secret police, and his boss at the Interior Ministry, Hovica Stanisic, are awaiting their verdict. The fact that the Croatian government has been singled out in today's case as having had a role in war crimes is significant because Stanisic and Simatovic are also directly tied to the Serbian government of Slobodan Milosevic. So far, only one major government figure, the chief of staff of the Serbian army, had actually been in jail. Milosevic was mid-trial when he died during his trial, and Tudjman and Šušak, the 2 government leaders from Croatia, both died in the late 1990s. So they escaped judgment and they escaped jail, as did Milosevic. His chief of staff was convicted of war crimes, but that conviction was overturned on appeal on the logic that he was a soldier just carrying out orders, and the fact that his orders facilitated war crimes was waived off by the appeals court. It looks to me like today's verdict, tying the Croatian government and 6 of its actors to war crimes, is a way of pre-evening up the score, if you will, and preparing for an announcement of the conviction of Stanisic and Simatovic, the 2 Serb government functionaries in this case.
Indeed, that would be sending a very powerful message, wouldn't it, David?
Well, it certainly does send a message. Today's verdict, already announced, also sends a message that governments can and will be held responsible for war crimes committed by people working for it, perhaps even in the absence of direct testimony saying that President Tudjman ordered war crimes or President Milosevic ordered war crimes, although it is quite clear to journalists and historians who covered the war that both of those presidents were actively involved in strategy and tactics, and that war crimes, in fact, were an essential part of both of their strategies to basically eliminate the Bosnian Muslim population and carve up Bosnia and Herzegovina between them, and adding parts to Croatia and parts to Serbia.
How do you expect this will all play in Yugoslavia?
Well, it's going to play in Yugoslavia exactly the way today's verdicts are playing in Croatia. Today's Croatian prime minister denounced the verdict, said that they were at odds with the truth, that it's unfair to hold the Croats responsible, that they were only defending themselves against Serbs committing war crimes. And of course, every time a Serb is indicted or convicted, the Serbian government says essentially the same thing. That the court is biased against it, that everybody's holding the Serbs responsible more so than the Croats and the Bosniaks, the Bosnian Muslims. But today's verdict, holding the Croats and the Croat government specifically responsible, does seem to set up a verdict either later today or tomorrow that these two very high ranking members of the Serb government will also be held responsible, convicted, and as in the case of the Croats, get considerable prison terms. The Croats got terms of 10 to 25 years, with the most significant of them, Jadranko Perlic, drawing the 25-year prison term.
David, this is a different model that seemingly has been more successful. Can you very briefly, we have less than a minute, sort of talk about other models that have been used and why this one is seemingly more successful?
Well, it's successful if you have a stake in the game and basically want revenge upon those who have committed war crimes. In terms of political reconciliation, this criminalizing and judging tends to make people choose up sides and to stick to their sides. The Truth Commission model, most famously used in South Africa, but also very successful in El Salvador, lays aside judgment and, if you will, lays aside revenge in favor of information which allows both sides to say, we were wrong, we'll try and do better in the future, rather than we got jobbed in the court and we're still mad about it.
All right, David Marash, thank you so much. It sure is great to see you. We appreciate your time.
Thanks very much, Debbie.